Dr. Sarah Martinez adjusted her worn leather satchel as she entered the gleaming conference hall of the International Technology Summit in Geneva. Around her, delegates from the world's most advanced nations displayed their latest innovations. Holographic interfaces, quantum processors, and AI systems that could predict human behavior with frightening accuracy. The Japanese delegation, led by Dr. Kenji Nakamura, showcased robots that could perform surgery through thought commands. The German team, headed by Dr. Alena Hoffmann, demonstrated fusion reactors the size of briefcases. The Chinese representative, Dr. Wei Chun, unveiled neural implants that allowed instant knowledge transfer. When Sarah's turn arrived, she opened her simple canvas bag and placed its contents on the table. Waterproof matches, paracord, a fixed blade, knife, first aid supplies, water purification tablets, and her grandfather's worn Swiss Army knife. The reaction was immediate. Dr. Nakamura's translator struggled to explain why anyone would carry primitive camping equipment to a technology summit. Dr. Hoffman laughed politely, suggesting Sarah might have confused this gathering with a wilderness survival course. Even the summit's moderator, Dr. James Harrison from Cambridge, seemed embarrassed. Perhaps Dr. Martinez could explain the technological advancement represented by these tools, Dr. Harrison asked, barely concealing his condescension. Sarah stood calmly. These represent humanity's most reliable technology. No power source required, no network connectivity needed, no software updates. When everything else fails, these work. Dr. Chon interjected, "Surely you're not suggesting we abandon progress for Stone Age solutions?" "I'm suggesting we remember that progress without foundation is just elaborate failure waiting to happen," Sarah replied. "My grandmother survived the London Blitz with tools like these. My grandfather crossed the Pacific in World War II carrying similar gear. They didn't need satellites or AI to stay alive." The audience murmured with polite dismissal. Dr. Viktor Petrov from Russia whispered something to his colleague that made them both chuckle. The Brazilian delegate, Dr. Ana Santos, shook her head with academic sympathy. Dr. Harrison delivered the session's summary. While we appreciate Dr. Martinez's historical perspective, I think we can all agree that humanity's future lies in embracing advancement, not retreating to our cave-dwelling past. As delegates filed out to examine quantum displays and neural interfaces, Sarah quietly repacked her grandfather's kit. She noticed one person lingering, Marcus Thompson, a grizzled former military engineer from the Australian delegation, studying her equipment with professional interest. 20 years in special forces, he said quietly. "I'd trust that knife over any laser cutter," Sarah smiled. "Then you understand what the others don't. Tools don't make the craftsman." Outside, storm clouds gathered over the Alps, and satellite communications began experiencing mysterious interference that meteorologists couldn't explain. The interference started as minor glitches during Dr. Chun's neural implant demonstration. His volunteer test subject, Dr. Lisa Park, suddenly clutched her head in pain as the connection severed violently. Within minutes, every electronic device in the summit hall began malfunctioning. Dr. Nakamura's surgical robots froze mid-operation. On their practice cadavers, Dr. Hoffman's fusion reactor display flickered and died. Emergency lighting failed. Even basic flashlights refused to function as an electromagnetic pulse of unknown origin swept across the region. "Everyone remain calm," Dr. Harrison announced, his voice barely audible without the microphone system. "This is obviously a temporary power issue." But Marcus Thompson, using his military instincts, had already reached the windows. "It's not just us," he called out. "The entire city's dark. No car lights, no building illumination, nothing electrical is working." Panic rippled through the crowd of brilliant minds who suddenly found themselves helpless. Dr. Petrov, frantically, pressed buttons on his quantum communicator. Dr. Santos tried rebooting her holographic projector. Nothing responded. In the growing darkness, a small flame appeared. Sarah had lit one of her waterproof matches and was calmly lighting a small candle from her emergency kit. The simple light drew everyone's attention like a beacon. "That's impossible," Dr. Hoffman said. "If it's an electromagnetic event strong enough to disable our fusion reactors, it should have affected your combustible materials too." "Electromagnetic pulses don't affect fire," Sarah replied, lighting additional candles from her supply. "These matches work the same way they did 100 years ago." Dr. Chun, still shaken from his neural implant experience, stared at the primitive flame. "How did you know to bring those?" "I didn't know," Sarah admitted. "But my grandfather taught me to always prepare for what could go wrong, not just what should go right." Marcus began helping Sarah distribute light sources. "Standard military protocol," he explained to the confused scientists. "Always carry backup systems that operate on different principles than your primary equipment." As hours passed, the situation became dire. The building's ventilation systems had failed, and the Swiss Alpine cold was seeping through the walls. People were getting hungry, thirsty, and frightened. Their smartphones, tablets, and laptop computers had become expensive PAPA or WEIGHTS. Doctor Park, still recovering from her neural implant shock, approached Sarah. "Do you have anything for pain? The medical bay's equipment won't function." Sarah opened her first aid kit and handed over some basic pain relievers. "Nothing fancy, but they work without requiring a computer diagnosis." Dr. Harrison, his academic pride crumbling with his quantum-powered world, finally asked the question everyone was thinking. "Dr. Martinez, exactly how long could you survive with what you brought?" Sarah looked around at the assembled experts, their faces illuminated by her simple candles. "That depends," she said quietly, "on whether you're willing to learn." Dawn brought no relief. The electromagnetic phenomenon had intensified overnight, creating a dead zone spanning hundreds of miles across Central Europe. Traditional radios couldn't penetrate the interference, and even wind-up emergency devices failed to function properly. Sarah had spent the night organizing the summit's 200 delegates into manageable groups. Her first priority was establishing basic needs: water, food, warmth, and communication systems that didn't rely on electronics. "Dr. Martinez," Dr. Hoffman approached her, pride clearly struggling with necessity. "Our delegation includes experts in nuclear physics, but none of us know how to make fire without matches." "It's not about making fire," Sarah explained, demonstrating with her flint striker. "It's about understanding the principles behind every tool you use. Your fusion reactor works on the same basic concept as this flint-controlled energy release." She gathered the German team around a makeshift fire pit constructed from conference room chairs. "Dr. Hoffman, your expertise in energy systems makes you perfect for understanding fire management. Dr. Zimmerman, your work in atmospheric chemistry helps predict how smoke will behave in confined spaces." Meanwhile, Marcus Thompson was teaching rope work to the Japanese delegation. "Dr. Nakamura, your robotic precision is exactly what's needed for proper knot tying," he explained, showing them how to secure shelter materials. "It's just applying mechanical principles with your hands instead of machines." The most challenging student was Dr. Chun, whose neural implant experience had left him deeply shaken. "I've spent 15 years developing brain-computer interfaces," he confessed to Sarah. "I don't even know how to start a conversation without digital assistance." "Then we'll start simpler," Sarah said gently. "Help me organize our water supplies. It's about logistics and resource management skills you already have." Dr. Park proved surprisingly adaptable. her medical background translating well to field treatment. "I've been using AI for diagnostics for so long, I forgot how to read basic vital signs," she admitted while learning to check pulse manually. The Brazilian delegation, led by Dr. Santos, took to food preparation with unexpected enthusiasm. "My grandmother cooked like this in Recife," Ana laughed, learning to prepare preserved foods without electric appliances. "I never thought I'd need those skills at a technology summit." As the second day progressed, small successes built confidence. Dr. Petrov discovered his knowledge of atmospheric pressure helped predict weather changes without electronic forecasting. Dr. Harrison found that his organizational skills from academia translated perfectly to group management in crisis situations. But the most significant change was in attitude. The same brilliant minds who had mocked Sarah's equipment now competed to learn primitive skills. Dr. Hoffman requested lessons in water purification. Dr. Nakamura wanted to understand emergency medical treatment without robotic assistance. Why didn't they teach us this in engineering school? Dr. Zimmerman asked while successfully starting his first fire. Because we thought we'd evolved beyond needing it, Marcus replied grimly. Military taught me different. Always assume your fancy gear will break at the worst possible moment. By evening, the summit had transformed into an intensive survival school. The same conference halls that had hosted presentations on quantum computing now echoed with lessons on knot tying, fire making, and resource conservation. Asterisk. Sarah watched her former mockers working together to prepare dinner over open fires, using tools and techniques humanity had relied on for millennia. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight they were learning the most important lesson. Of all, sometimes the best technology is the kind that never breaks. The third day brought the first real crisis. Dr. Park discovered Dr. Harrison unconscious in his quarters, burning with fever and showing signs of severe dehydration. Without electronic medical equipment, her AI-assisted diagnostic training seemed useless. His pulse is rapid, skin flushed and hot, Dr. Park reported to Sarah, her voice shaking. In the hospital, I'd run a full body scan, blood analysis, neural mapping. I don't know how to treat someone without machines. Sarah opened her first aid kit and began a systematic manual examination. What did you learn before the computers? Touch his forehead temperature assessment. Check his pupil's neurological response. Feel his pulse cardiovascular status. But without precise measurements, Dr. Park? Sarah interrupted gently. How do you think doctors saved lives for thousands of years before electronics? Working together, they determined Harrison was suffering from a combination of stress-induced illness and dehydration. Sarah's water purification tablets became crucial as they needed large quantities of clean water for treatment. Dr. Chung, still struggling with his technology dependence, surprised everyone by volunteering for dangerous water collection duty. I need to prove I can function without neural enhancement, he explained, preparing to venture outside for snow to melt. Marcus organized a security team from the various delegations. Dr. Petrov, your systems analysis background makes you perfect. For threat assessment, Dr. Nakamura, your precision robotics experience translates to careful observation and movement. But the real test came when a group of local villagers arrived at the summit facility. Cut off from the outside world for 3 days, they were seeking help, and their leader, an elderly Swiss farmer named Klaus Weber, spoke little English. Dr. Santos, whose Portuguese shared Latin roots with Klaus's dialect, became the crucial translator. He says the entire region is affected, she reported. No electricity, no communications, no transportation. People are starting to panic. The summit delegates faced a choice: protect their diminishing resources or help the growing refugee population gathering outside their doors. Dr. Hoffman argued for conservation. We have enough supplies for perhaps a week for our group. Adding refugees will cut that to days. But Dr. Chun, transformed by his recent struggles, disagreed. We're scientists. Our purpose is to help humanity, not just survive. Sarah proposed a different approach. We teach them what we've learned. Multiply our knowledge instead of dividing our resources. What followed was an intensive training program unlike anything in academic history. Quantum physicists taught fire management to shepherds. AI specialists learned traditional farming techniques from mountain villagers. Neural interface experts helped organize manual communication networks across the valley. Klaus Weber proved especially valuable, his lifetime of mountain living complementing Sarah's emergency preparedness knowledge. Together, they established efficient systems for food preservation, water collection, and shelter management that could support the growing community. Main Grovator taught me these ways, Klaus explained through Dr. Santos's translation. He always said modern tools are servants, not masters. Dr. Park found her calling treating villagers with basic medical techniques, rediscovering the satisfaction of healing through skill rather than machines. I'd forgotten how much you can learn from just listening to a patient, she told Sarah. As night fell, the improvised community had grown to over 300 people. The summit hall buzzed with activity as former technology experts worked alongside mountain farmers, sharing knowledge that bridged centuries of human experience. Dr. Harrison, recovering slowly, watched from his improvised sickbed. Dr. Martinez, he said weakly, I owe you an apology. And apparently, my life. Sarah smiled, stirring a pot of soup over an open fire. You don't owe me anything. You've all learned the most important lesson intelligence without wisdom is just cleverness waiting to fail. Outside, the electromagnetic storm continued to rage, but inside, humanity was remembering how to be human. On the 7th day, the electromagnetic interference finally began to fade. Weak radio signals penetrated the dead zone, bringing news from the outside world. The phenomenon had affected most of Central Europe, leaving millions without power and modern technology for nearly a week. Dr. Nakamura managed to get his quantum communicator partially functioning. The first reports were sobering. Cities had descended into chaos, supply chains had collapsed, and governments struggled to coordinate relief efforts using pre-digital communication methods. Tokyo reports widespread panic, he told the assembled group. Our automated systems failed completely. They're requesting immediate consultation on manual backup procedures. Similar calls for help poured in from around the world. Dr. Hoffman received desperate requests from German engineering firms whose automated factories had become inoperable. Dr. Chun was contacted by Chinese technology companies whose AI-dependent operations had ground to a halt. But the most surprising request came for Sarah herself. The Secretary General of the United Nations, speaking through a restored satellite link, formally requested her expertise in establishing global emergency preparedness protocols. Dr. Martinez, the tinny voice crackled through the rebuilt communication system, your survival training has been the most effective disaster response we've documented. We need you to lead an international initiative. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman they'd mocked a week earlier was now being recruited to teach world leaders the basics of civilization. Klaus Weber, through Dr. Santos's continued translation, offered a different perspective. My people have watched this, he said, gesturing toward the improvised community that had thrived during the crisis. City people and mountain people, working together. This is how it should be. The reintegration process revealed how much everyone had changed. Dr. Park had decided to establish a primitive medicine training program at her hospital. We've become so dependent on machines that we've forgotten how to diagnose with our minds and hands, she explained. Dr. Hoffman was redesigning her fusion reactors with manual backup systems. Every automated process needs a non-electronic alternative, she declared. We'll never be caught defenseless again. Dr. Chun surprised everyone most. He had decided to abandon neural interface research entirely, instead focusing on human-centered design that enhanced rather than replaced natural capabilities. The brain-computer interface showed me something terrifying, he confided Sarah. We're not advancing human potential, we're outsourcing it. Marcus Thompson was returning to Australia with plans to establish survival training programs for technology workers. Every programmer should know how to make fire, he said with characteristic directness. Every engineer should understand basic mechanics without computers. As the delegates prepared to leave, Sarah found herself overwhelmed by requests for her equipment list, training materials, and consultation agreements. The simple emergency kit that had provoked laughter was now being studied by military strategists and civilian planners worldwide. Dr. Harrison, fully recovered and significantly humbled, delivered the summit's final address. We came here to showcase humanity's technological achievements, he said. Instead, we rediscovered humanity's fundamental achievements, the knowledge that built everything else. The real transformation was philosophical. The summit had begun with presentations about transcending human limitations through technology. It ended with recognition that human capabilities needed cultivation, not replacement. Sarah packed her grandfather's Swiss Army knife, noting its worn handle had gained a few more scratches during the week. Around her, brilliant minds were discussing how to integrate primitive wisdom into advanced systems, how to build resilience rather than just efficiency. Klaus Weber approached her before departure, pressing a simple wooden carving into her hands. Small figure of a person carrying tools. For remembering, Dr. Santos translated his words. Technology serves those who understand life without it. As Sarah boarded the first functioning transport out of the valley, she reflected on the weeks. Events. The electromagnetic storm had been a disaster, but it had also been a gift forcing humanity to remember that progress without foundation isn't progress at all. Her phone, finally functional again, buzzed with hundreds of messages. Interview. Requests, consulting offers, government contracts. The primitive had become cutting edge, and the backward had become forward thinking. But the most important message was from her grandfather, texted from his farm in Montana. Heard about your week on the news. Proud of you, kiddo. Same kit got me through Korea. Tools don't make the person makes the tools. Sarah smiled, understanding finally that wisdom isn't about what you know, but about remembering what you've always known. The adventure had ended, but the real journey was just beginning. Asterisk.